In this video today, I'm going to show you how you can transfer spores from a wood-loving species that grows in mulch into a bottle so that you can spread that species wherever you want to. In today's example, I'm going to be using Collibia nuda, a wood bluet mushroom, although this method I'm about to teach you applies to any wood-loving species that's saprophytic and grows in mulch. A lot of mycology is just trial and error until you find a method that is successful. So let me show you my technique for collecting spores and then utilizing them. So first thing is we're going to take a spore print. So here's our mushroom of choice. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the stipe away from the cap. So as close as possible. We now have a stipe here, which can be used in another video where I can teach you how to make something called cardboard spawn. But today we're just going to be utilizing the cap of the mushroom. I like to do my spore prints on aluminium foil. You could use baking paper, but something like Collibia nuda, which has a white spore print, you're not going to see very well and it's not going to show up. So I find aluminium foil is a great medium for all different mushroom varieties. Once you take your aluminium foil, you want it to cover most of a plate, and ideally a plate with a little divot, as this will make sense a bit later on. Then you're going to take your mushroom and place it cap down on the center of the plate. And then finally, you're going to take a cup or a bowl, depending on the size of the mushroom you're working with, place it over the top, and you're then going to leave that for 24 hours or overnight. And now comes the hypothetical. So once you've collected your spores, they're going to be deposited on this aluminium foil in the center of the plate. You're going to remove the bowl, remove the mushroom, and then you're going to take some distilled water, which you can get for $2 at any supermarket. And you're going to pour some distilled water onto the bowl, onto the plate where the spores are, and it'll be captured in the middle. Then take a clean butter knife and scratch those spores so all the spores become suspended within the water on top of the foil. Then you're going to go to a $2 store, like a Cheapest Chips or something like that, and you can just buy a 3-pack of plastic syringes with no needles for like a couple dollars. And you're then going to use those syringes to then suck up that sporey distilled water into your syringes. Once you do that, you can then take that spore distilled water from the syringe and inject it into a spray bottle, a classic $2 spray bottle that you can get at Bunnings, a $2 store, or a grocery store. Once you then take your syringes and put them all into that spray bottle, you're going to be left with a dense spore deposited bit of water within your spray bottle, which you can then buff up with more distilled water, and you can end up filling an entire 1-liter spray bottle, all with suspended spores within the water, ready to start spraying in mulch patches to continue growing mushrooms. I hope that example makes sense to you and you can continue finding and cultivating mushrooms within